All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, hands down, today was the biggest game in quite some time for Tennessee Volunteers football. The undefeated Volunteers welcomed the Alabama Crimson Tide to Knoxville for a rivalry game that has been dominated by Alabama. As you got to go back to 2006 to find that the last time that the Volunteers were able to best the Tide. But these Vols, the modern day Vols, they not only found a way to hang with Alabama today, they also got their hand raised at the end of this slugfest. Tennessee won this contest 52 to 49, but more importantly, they showed the rest of the Southeastern Conference that they are ready to once again be a player at the big boy table. Tennessee got off to the strong start today. They had a 28 to 10 lead, and then we did see Alabama come back and tie this game. And at one point, they were able to take the lead. And generally, when you see Alabama go on the type of run that they did this afternoon, the teams that they're doing it against, for the most part over the years, they've crumbled. This Tennessee team did not do that. They went blow for blow with Alabama throughout this contest today. And when it was all said and done, they got the walk-off field goal after Alabama had the chance for the go-ahead field goal late. They were the ones who got the walk-off field goal. And now the Volunteers, they're still undefeated. They definitely are going to move up in the rankings because you figure heading into this game, Alabama was 3, Tennessee was 6. So I could see a situation where Tennessee is probably 4 or maybe 3 when the new rankings come out tomorrow. But nonetheless, this was a big day and a big evening for Tennessee. You look at quarterback Hendon Hooker, what he did in this contest for the Vols. He was 21 of 30, passing for 385 yards with 5 touchdowns. Most of that damage was done by Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver. 6 catches for 207. And of those 6 catches, 5 of those went for touchdown passes. For Josh Heupel, he has not been in Tennessee that long. This is just his second year as the head ball coach there. And he has been able to do what so many of his predecessors before him have not been able to do since Philip Fulmer stepped down at the end of 2008, which is, you know what? Not only have Tennessee in relevant games, but also have them win these relevant games. And for the Volunteers, this is what you got to do. You got to go out there and take care of your business against the big boys. Heading into this season, Tennessee, for the most part, has been dominated by Florida. Granted, Florida is not a world beater this year, but Tennessee was able to knock them off earlier this year. Obviously, the rivalry between Tennessee and Alabama, and you finally win for the first time since 2006. Not only that, but Alabama has been the litmus test for so many years under head coach Nick Saban. So you know what? For you to go be able to go out there and take care of your business, obviously, you know what? Kudos to you. And now Tennessee's got to find a way to build off of this and keep this momentum going. And of course, the fans on Rocky Top, to say that they're ecstatic right now is an understatement. You figure Neyland Stadium seats well over 100,000 people. I guarantee you today there's going to be about 200,000 people that said they were there to see this win. But nonetheless, for Tennessee, they definitely want to keep this momentum going. And that November 5th trip to Athens to take on Georgia is looming so big right now because, Georgia has been running roughshod over the SEC East for the last couple of years, and for the most part, they have not been tested. This is a scenario right here where you know what. Georgia's going to have to buckle up their chin straps and be ready for this game. This, to me, I think, is going to be the game that decides the SEC East. Is basically between Tennessee and Georgia right now for my money. And Tennessee's 2/3 of the way there. They beat Florida, they beat Alabama. Now they got to go out there and find a way to beat the Dogs. And of course, the Dogs are the defending national champions. Now, on the flip side for Alabama, of course, the question is going to be: will the Tide be able to bounce back? We've seen it in years past. We saw it last year where Alabama lost midseason on the road in College Station to Texas A&M. And then they got on a roll, and that roll took them all the way to the national championship game. And of course, you can make the argument, and it's very compelling, had Alabama not lost their top two receivers um, to knee injuries, won in the SEC championship game, and then, of course, in the national title game, would they have won it all? Strong possibility. But nonetheless, Alabama, they got to get back on track, and they have to do it in a hurry. And first and foremost, Alabama's got to clean up a lot of stuff. First and foremost, 17 penalties ain't going to get it done at any level of football. And that's what Alabama did today. They shot themselves in the foot. Uh, that pass interference call late in this contest, you know, you could call it, you could not call it as well. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. But the bottom line is it was called, and this defense as a whole did not play good today. And that's not taking anything away from this Tennessee offense, but this Alabama defense is much better than what we saw from them today. There's a lot of NFL talent on that side of the ball, and they didn't play like it today. That front seven really didn't get a lot of pressure on Hendon Hooker. And on the flip side, for Tennessee and Josh Heupel, credit to them for putting Hooker in situations where, you know what, he got that ball out quick. And of course, that Alabama secondary, they had their problems with these Tennessee wide receivers for the majority of this contest. But they got to get a lot of things cleaned up with the penalties as well as what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Alabama does have a chance to bounce back, but you look at their next three games, not going to be easy. Winnable games, just not easy games. They're home for Mississippi State. They got a week off, and then they go to Death Valley to take on LSU. That's always a marquee game, regardless of the records. And then after that, they travel to Oxford to take on Ole Miss. And we look at the way that Ole Miss is playing right now for head coach Lane Kiffin. That is going to be a game that you definitely want to circle, because that right there has national championship implications as well. But for Alabama, they know that their margin for error is gone right now if they want to get to the college football playoff. They know that they got to go out there, run the table, get to the SEC championship game, and win the SEC championship game. And with that said, there is a possibility that both of these teams could meet in Atlanta. I mean, you think about it. If Tennessee goes to Athens and they get past Georgia, more than likely they're going to win the East. And if Alabama wins out, obviously they're going to be in Atlanta as well. So this, what we saw today, could be a preview of that contest. And if this was indeed a preview of the SEC championship game, I cannot wait for the encore. But with that said, I think today as a whole, and you talk about Tennessee and Alabama, we also saw Penn State uh, take on Michigan, and then TCU and Oklahoma State get it on as well. All of these games had big time playoff implications on them. You know, both of the all of these teams that I mentioned, they were all, you know, ranked high. You know, coming into this contest with great records. But this is what it's all about, in my opinion. You know, you don't need to go out there and expand the playoff. This is what makes it more important, because these teams know that, guess what, they don't have that wiggle room to go out there and say, you know what, we can afford one or two losses, but we could still bounce back for the playoff. No, this is what it's all about. I mean, if you want to have the playoff, I think the 14 format is tremendous, because it puts such an emphasis on the regular season. It puts such an emphasis on going out there and having to take care of your business. And by doing so, these games right here are like you're basically able to shrink that pot as far as teams who still are going to have playoff implications. Granted, Alabama's still going to be in the mix for the playoff. Granted, Oklahoma State is still going to be in the mix for the playoff. And you can make a case for Penn State as well, still being in the mix for a playoff bid. But all of those teams that lost today, and those undefeated against undefeated teams, they know that their margin for error is very slim at best going forward. And of course, in an expanded playoff, that is not going to be the case. Like I said before, you go out there and expand this thing from 4 teams to 12 teams like they're going to do. Okay, big deal. You got two SEC teams making the field of four now. What's going to happen when it's four, maybe five SEC teams, and then you got two or three Big Ten teams making a field of 12 as well. So basically, you're going to have two conferences, calling the shots and, basically dominating the field. But nonetheless, getting back to the business at hand, I think this was big for Tennessee. They definitely want to go out there and keep the momentum going for themselves. They've got Tennessee Martin at home next week. Obviously, Tennessee Martin is not the same type of opponent that Alabama was for Tennessee, but the Vols definitely got to go out there and take care of their business. They welcomed Kentucky to town on the 29th. And then, of course, like I said, the big one. Um, Down in Athens against Georgia is looming so big. But nonetheless, you saw two of the better teams in college football get it on today. For Alabama, I mean, they still, granted with the penalties and the defensive issues, they still have to be happy with what they saw from quarterback Bryce Young today. Of course, Bryce Young left injured with that shoulder against Arkansas a couple of weeks ago. He missed last week's game against Texas A&M. Alabama was able to hold on without him. I thought at some point that Jalen Milroe would have gotten some reps. Not to say that Saban would have wanted to go away from Bryce Young just to try to mix it up and get more in the running game, but that was not the case. He stuck with his Heisman winner, and Bryce Young showed no ill effects of that shoulder injury. Threw the ball pretty good, was very accurate, and let his athleticism do its work for him today. It's just the fact that defensively, Alabama could not make enough key stops on Tennessee's offense. And to me, I think that was the biggest difference in this game as far as why Tennessee won and Alabama didn't. But make no mistake about it, this was a tremendous game, a tremendous day of college football. And it would not surprise me in about 6 or 7 weeks to see both of these clubs meeting in Atlanta for the SEC title. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.